Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses, presented by our good friends at Saratoga Water. In fact, I think I'll have a Saratoga Water. She is Sarah Albadwi. I am Andy Serling, and it's the first Saturday at Saratoga, the first of 8. Are you getting in the groove yet, or is it still a little,
I feel more
learning?
relaxed today,
Really?
just like you were mentioning before we came on air. It feels like a nice calm today. We're on the turf, so that's great. I don't have to scramble with all these scratches coming out. In fact, none of my picks ended up scratching except for one, so a much more relaxed start to our Saturday.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'm happy you're happy.
It's much different, and I think many can attest to this, from when we used to have the 6-day weeks here. Because it's a lot. And now when you start with 4 and you go to 5, there's a little more time to catch your breath. But it's great to be in Saratoga. It's a gorgeous day here out, so we're looking forward to all the races. And as Sarah just mentioned, we are happy to be on the turf. Turf is listed as firm. For those that are wondering a little about yesterday coming off the turf, first of all, we got an inch of rain between the end of racing on Thursday and throughout the night. So that's obviously the biggest factor. It also combined with an inch and a half earlier, a couple days before. But the other thing I think it's important to remember is it possible that if it was the last week of racing, would we have left at least a couple of the races on the turf? Yeah, in all likelihood we would have. But I don't, you have to appreciate what, even with moving the rails, 2 months of racing, 6 races basically on the turf, 3 on each course, day after day after day. And if you run when there's a little bit of cut after rain like that, you're going to chew the course up a bit. Now, you're always going to have a little bit of a chew up as you run the races, but to accelerate that process in just the second day of the meet, by the end of the meet, we're going to start losing turf races. So, yeah, we lost, 5 turf, whatever we lost, it was 5 turf races. We might have lost 30 turf races in the last 2 weeks combined had we run on yesterday's course. And once again, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we're all just as frustrated as you. We like from a handicapping standpoint. We also like it for business. It's much better for our business when we stay on the turf. But you have to look at more than just that. Because I thought some people asked me about the turf yesterday, and I think it's fair to ask, but I think there's a very reasonable response.
And these kind of decisions are the reason why we're able to keep our turf courses in the kind of condition that they do stay in at all 3 NYRA tracks. So I think it's just good forethought to look out for those later races and what we have going on later on in the meet. And it's just one day, the second day, unfortunately, but we did get a significant amount of rain, as you mentioned. So I think it ultimately was the right call, but glad that we're on today, especially for some stakes action as well.
Right. We're not looking to harass you. And off the turf is not good for anybody. I'm looking to harass people, but I'm kind of a jerk that way. Head over to NYRA Bets and use the promo code SPA200, and we'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. We got that.
Malachi?
No, the QR code. I know you're excited about that.
I am.
Early bird special. I've already opted in today and tomorrow. I made $10 on this the other day, which was better than I did the rest of the day. That was opening day. Anyway, you opt in for that. We'll give you $10 back. You bet at least $100 on the first 5 races here at Saratoga. We have the cross-country pick 5 couple at Saratoga, including the quick call. No, guys, that's the Sunday one. Do we have a Saturday one? Quick call. I know the quick call's tomorrow. Apparently we don't. Okay, we got a middle pick 4. Now, let's go through the pick 4s. The pick 4s are races 2 and 8 in our 11-race card, but I think it's a little different because it's in the 5th race also because we have a second pick 5, which starts in race number 4. I think
you're right.
Yes.
Here's today's cross-country.
There's today's cross-country, by the way. It involves 3 races at the Meadowlands. A couple of stakes here and 3 at the Meadowlands, so it'll be part of our show. And somebody's asked me on Twitter, and it's a reasonable question, why we didn't have the Diane's the 3rd race, so it wouldn't be in 2 pick 5s. Well, a lot more decisions obviously going to make it, and I didn't make them. But the question I would really ask is, I think a lot of people are going to be leaning on in Italian. Isn't it okay to have a free square? It's not like the rest of the races are that easy.
Right.
I think so. I have a different opinion. I think some of those pick 5s benefit from having a theoretical free square, though you obviously disagree with this. I agree with a poll our friend David put up the other day. I think if you were to ask which favorite is more likely to lose between her and Gold Sweep in the Sanford, I think she is much more likely to lose. Not much more, but more likely to lose than he is.
Yes, I disagree.
We'll discuss
that
later. 1 to 3:30 on FS1, 3:30 to 7 on FS2, and then something later, 10 to 12 for you night owls.
You going to be here?
I'll be finishing dinner for at least half of that. And I don't have. I can get Fox, the app. My cable thing is weird.
Well, you could just watch on YouTube.
I could do that, or I could come home and work on Thursday's card, which is what I'll probably do.
Plentiful options for you.
Anyhow, it's always good to have things to look forward to. Race number uno. One horse, Pirate, is going to be a heavy favorite in here. I love the name. Omaha Beach and Treasure. It's a pirate. I feel like you should come with an eye patch or
perfect.
something on, right? Kind of.
It'd be best if he had one eye.
He is a half to National Treasure, by the way, who won the Preakness, in case you're not aware of that. And the word is around that he is a very, 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 very good runner. I am not getting in the way of Pletcher firsters that are supposed to be the goods. They seem to get it done. I foolishly tried to get in the way of his horse in the second.
Paul.
You did not yesterday. And this one I'm not getting in the way of. But you are going the one that we have a sales work for, and that's the Force Special Element. We could show that work from OBS.
Yeah, worked very well. This is a very precocious pedigree, too. Sire Copper Bullet won 2 starts as a 2-year-old, placed in his other 2, and he won our 2017 Saratoga Special. I really like this work.
That's very fortuitous that he won the Saratoga Special.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I like the work, too.
10 flat, sold for $260,000 at that OBS April sale. The Dam also won on debut. Half sibling 1484 won his first 2 starts. So it's a win early kind of pedigree all around sire and Dam side. Obviously, the Pletcher horse is taking a ton of early money and should. There's so much pedigree with this one, and it makes a ton of sense. I just wanted to go with an alternative to what is likely going to be an extremely heavy favorite to start things off.
That's fine. Listen, I got the horse second, so I'm not going to argue against it. I've also got the George Weaver. You don't have the 5 in there at all, Arteta. I am not leaving George Weaver horses out.
Of anything.
I'm not. I mean, his horses ran huge at Belmont. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if he can keep it up. Normally, he seems to be a little quiet at Belmont, and then he often turns it on here. But his 2-year-olds on the turf were tremendous, and I'm always scared of George's starters.
And that's fair. This one just had a lot of dam side turf pedigree, so I wonder if maybe this one needs a start before going to that surface next time out.
Yeah, we'll see. It doesn't seem afraid to run firsters on the turf. Race number 2. I'm not sure how to begin the conversation in race 2, but I think the conversation starts with speed. And I'm curious to see if the race is bet as David thinks it is. And I thought that Talkin' Pharaoh might take some money in here. I could be wrong because Linda always gets bet. But I think the whole point with Talkin' Pharaoh is we show a replay of his last races. He has to be part of what looks like a pretty quick pace between Win for Gold, who has to go, Tommy Gunn, who has speed, East Coast Girl, who's a bullet, who has a trainer change, and Talkin' Pharaoh. And I wonder if this horse you can trust if he can't get the lead.
And also is theoretically facing tougher company, too, with that one race being an anomaly from what we've seen from him so far. I just didn't really see it playing out for him as favorably as things did last time out, though that last number, if replicated today, certainly makes him a player. I just don't know that we're going to see something like that performance again in a field like this based on dynamics.
Oh, I just don't think he's a horse that you can trust without the lead, and I think it's very unlikely. And I mean, you wonder about paces. If they're not moving a little bit in here, something either went badly wrong at the start or something went crazy, because there's 4 potential speed types in this race. And both of us, I guess, like Sugar Gray Leonard, who is the morning line favorite, we'll race the race 2 back, just figuring out to be able to take advantage of the pace.
Now goes third off a layoff, and this is one where I do like his dirt starts just as much, if not more, than his turf races, and faced some good horses on the grass last time out. That ends up being a race where several have come back to do well, and this is a race where he was just closing into a pace and just didn't quite get there towards the outside. Things should just really set up for him today, now getting onto a fast track, because there is so much speed, as we mentioned, out in front of him, that he looked like the most reliable closer and probably the best of them as well, with the other 2 to his outside. So I saw a lot of what you did for him.
Yeah, just seemed like a logical closer. The other closer is probably Isitude off the claim for David Jacobson. And you have the horse second. I have him third.
I just felt as though he was another one that was going to benefit from how this race should shape up, at least based on what we see on paper. He was second last time out at Ellis for a $50,000 claiming tag, non-tune life. And while first off, the claim for Jacobson isn't the strongest stat on the planet, I just thought a lot would be in his favor with the race flow.
Yeah, I'm going to sit around and wait, and maybe today will be the day that it happens, until David Jacobson's horses start winning at NYRA. He is 1 for 24 over the last 40 days at NYRA. And you seeing horses yesterday that were short prices. I mean, what possible excuse did C's get Degrees have yesterday? And the other one did absolutely no running at all at a short price. So I'm going to take a wait and see. But I would say with this horse, it's a new David Jacobson. So we'll see. Maybe this one will run well, and I certainly wouldn't be shocked if he does. Race number 3. Race number 3, a mile 16 of turf. Here's my opinion in this race. I want to bet against this horse, and we'll take a look at Vanished, who, listen, lost to a horse that came back and ran credibly, improving in a stake race, 6 Beyer points in the next start. But this horse should have won that race. Then Todd goes to the dirt, loses another race he kind of should have won. I feel like there's too much going on to take this horse.
That's fair. Don't you think she's just going to be the speed now getting back to the grass? The horse that did end up beating her did try a stakes race, although she didn't perform quite as well. That was obviously much tougher company.
I'm trying to get the stuff fixed. Yeah, she probably is the speed in here. That's a reasonable assumption, obviously, depending on other firsters and the like. But you know what? She is the speed. I don't care. This horse is going to be a short price, and I just am not a big fan. I think there's so much else going on. I should have shown the replay on King's Secret. Why don't you talk about this horse? And I'm going to try to sort something out. I am listening.
Sure. Both starts at Gulfstream have been kind of a mess for this one so far. On debut, the horse broke fine, was able to save some ground towards the inside, and went to make a move up the rail that wasn't available. Ended up getting shuffled back and disqualified, ultimately to 8th in that race. And then second time out, this was a horse that was trying to make a move on the first turn, bumping others to the inside and just lacked any sort of punch and was a little bit wider out. And that was against Queen Picasso, who we saw come back and win a stakes. Plenty of horses in there came back to win. 2nd, 3rd, 4th place finishers all doing so. So facing good company. And now is going to be a huge price after being favored in that race.
Yeah. Obviously, I don't disagree with you. I have the horse second, but I'm not sure. You know, it's funny. Some people might remember this horse. This was a horse that before its second race, Pete Aiello makes the line down in Florida and is about as good-natured a person as there is in that situation. I was giving him a hard time both on Twitter but also texting with him. I just completely missed it and made the horse 10 or 15 to 1, and I said this horse is going to be very, very short. And he ended up actually changing the line. They actually revised the line. And in Pete's defense, first of all, it's an impossible job. Second of all, sometimes you have to get those lines out awfully quickly without getting all the information. And I agree. The problem was I'm not sure the first race wasn't a bad field. And had she won, and I think she might have, wasn't that good a field. And then last time out, okay, something may have gone wrong because now I haven't seen her for 4 months. She was awful. I mean, I know it was a good field. I know it was a slow pace.
She should have done more.
She was right behind utilization rate, who's gone on to run okay. She won 2 starts later, but she just backed up. So either something went wrong or she's not that good. But I agree with you. I put her second and all of that stuff. I like the number 1, Isola. You can watch replays on YouTube. Not YouTube, excuse me, Naira Bets, if you remember Naira Bets, and you can go back and watch the replay on Fontainebleau. You can also look up horses on Racing Post from Europe. It's a bit of you have almost like a formulator type thing by searching horses. Now, they don't cover Fontainebleau, but the winner I could find, and I looked up what he's done since, and he's actually a fairly nice Franco horse that Juddmonte has. And they buried the rest of the field. So I think there's a reasonable chance this horse is coming out of a pretty good race. And I actually subsequently heard, because I actually picked the horse anyway, that the horse had been working fairly competitively with a pretty nice horse of Jack Sisterson's. So I think the horse is pretty good. And I just feel like the 1, the 2 are interesting. And you've left out Taciturn. This horse has plenty of pedigree, and why wouldn't we want to use a first-time starter for Klarovich and Chad Brown in Saratoga in a turf race?
That's a fair point. I liked a little bit more from the horses that had made starts so far, and I also had some interest in that foreign shipper that you mentioned, Picking on Top. Jack Sisterson most recently had another Behind Enemy Lines come in from Europe and win the Cutler Bay, so he's done well.
I think that's the horse.
That's the one she was working with?
I think.
Okay,
Not
because
sure.
if so,
I
that's
think-
some big information.
I think that's the one.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
You just perked up. You're so happy.
No, I was excited you said the name, and I'm like, it's like a whistle for me. What about Heavenly Appointed? We'll take a look at the race down at Delaware. David's got his horse 8 to 1, and maybe be a big price. There's so many things going on in this race, but don't these Grand Motion horses always take a lot of money? I didn't love the race.
I didn't either, and this horse was a shorter price that day as well. I just think there's a lot more happening in this race and more interesting options. But I could see a horse like this taking money, as you mentioned, so I wouldn't be completely surprised. I just ultimately preferred others.
Yeah, I also thought this horse got a pretty good trip in here and a very sweet ride. I think if you like this horse, you're really banking on, A, the field not being that good and her improving. And listen,
It's possible.
I'm not
I
going to
mean,
be shocked.
he did it with no show Shammy Joe.
Right.
But
I'm not going to be shocked when Vanish wins. It just feels like there's other horses I would rather play in the race. Race number 4, the Diana. I think the notion, first of all, I don't like the horse at all, but I'd like to see Mark Cassidy's horse do well here because at least unlike other trainers, Mark isn't afraid to run here. And Chad Brown's running 4 horses for different owners in this race. And if anybody doesn't think that this is a legit grade 1, and I know there was some griping by a disgruntled ex-worker here, but this is a very, very good race, and it features the at this point, likely Eclipse winner in Italian. And I'm not trying to beat her. I tried to beat her last time out. We'll take a look at her winning this race last year when she bottomed the field out, and she's the lone speed because she's fast and she's good.
this was her coming out party in this Diana last year, and the last time we saw a decent price on her when she was facing many of her stable mates as well. And this is where we started seeing her use her early speed to her advantage to just run fields off their feet. She's recorded nothing but triple-digit buyers since then. She's the speed of this compact field. There's just so much going in her favor, and I'm not trying to beat her either.
Yeah, I feel like she's only going to lose this race if she doesn't show up.
Exactly.
If you want to take that chance and try to beat her, go ahead. Market segmentation. She, in a lot of ways, is the kind of horse you're probably supposed to be playing against, maybe even for second. We'll take a look at her winning the New York, because she had everything go her own way in this race. She was able to set the pace, a moderate pace, on a track where the rail was very advantageous. And it's fair to say the second horse ran well, Dita. Now, Didi also had a good trip in there as well. And by the way, where's Didi? Oh, she's pointing for the Beverly D. Well, she could have run in both these races. But regardless, there were other horses that could have run. They didn't show up. It's never the fault of the person that shows up who doesn't show up. But I feel with her, I think she's wants less distance. Now, there may be others that disagree with this, but I feel she's better less distance. And I also thought she'd be sitting second. And maybe she's just the right one if for some reason Italia doesn't run a race.
That's all fair to say. I just saw that kind of perfect trip that you mentioned in that last race where she was the winner of that New York. And I think that the other Chad Brown entry in Fluffy Socks as well as Febvre, where they could potentially be a little bit better quality than she is. However, I do also see her in that advantageous second position in a race that doesn't have any other speed outside of an Italian.
Yeah, I just figured she'd be sitting the right trip, but it's going to be hard for her to win. Fluffy Socks is good. I don't think she's better than market segmentation, but she occasionally runs pretty good races, and I'm not a fan. She had an unbelievably great ride and trip last time with Irad. White Beam, you've left completely out. I've got the horse fourth. Our friend David likes this horse. I just thought she beat up on inferior horses in her last race.
That's my question with her. Is she really that good? I know that Evie Jets is on a roll right now and doing extremely well for the Cantor Moss. She's the horse that she finished second to in her first start in the U.S. But this field that she was facing last time out, where she was able to win, is just so much lighter in comparison to what she's going to be facing today.
Yeah, I guess you could say she has upside, but she better show that upside and show it in a hurry because
she's just not faster.
She's just not fast enough, and this is a much tougher group. Should we break after race 5? We'll break after race 5. Race number 5. Let's talk about Mariachi. Mariachi, he's charming. I'll let you talk about why you've picked him on top while we take a replay of his last race.
Well, this was a stat that you had mentioned when we were talking about him coming back off the bench, about how John Kimmel's numbers off similar layoffs are just not good. Now he's had that start for fitness, and he was also involved pressing a horse, Tommy Gunn, who we're going to see run earlier today, who ended up folding in the later stages. So while he won that battle, he was not able to hold off horses in the later stages coming to him. That was also a race at 7 furlongs, and now we're cutting back slightly to the 6. He's had that race under his belt off the bench, and I think that if he runs back to what we saw from him as a 2-year-old, we could be seeing him win today, as he now also draws an advantageous outside post. And
he's a good horse, and I think I agree with you on the stat. And the other thing about him was he was completely dead in the board last time. I mean, the idea that he wasn't favored, it was that they knew Ocean Reserve, who never wins, was going to win. No, they kind of knew he wasn't going to win, and it was sort of odd. And I agree, he is way, way, way the horse to beat in there. I have absolutely no argument with that, but I'm going to bet on G Munning. We'll look at G Munning's debut. G Munning, maybe it's too late. Maybe it doesn't matter what barn he goes into. He's now a 4-year-old, but he ran a huge race first time out, and a lot of us, the betting public included, thought he was going to go on and do good things. He was 4-5 in a stake in his next start, and he just completely fell apart. Now, when he switched barns to Saffie Joseph last year, he woke up again, but then he kind of went the wrong way. I'm going to give him another chance to get him back in gear. He's a horse that has run well when he's run fresh. He's now in Chad Brown's barn. He's not going to be a short price today. And because I also think that Mariachi's going to be about 8-5 in here. Isn't he going to be super short? So
No,
I'm going to try
agree.
him. Let's talk about agility, the number 5. We both have him third.
Well, he's your very reliable board hitter. The problem is that he just doesn't win that often, but he's been facing decent company. I think he just faces decent company again today and is likely to sit second to Mariachi and get a piece of things. I just don't see that kind of performance that puts him ahead of some of the company that he's going to be facing today.
Yeah, he doesn't win. And he's also, I think one of the reasons he doesn't win, it's not a rider's fault. I think he's a very hard horse to ride, too, because he's got an extremely short move. It's a good move, but it's a short move. And you watch his last race, and I needed him for second last time, and I'm not criticizing Dylan at all, but he seemed like he was making the right move at the right time, and not only could he not get to the winner. Now, the winner, Defusky Island, came back and
he's on
improved
a
his buyer
roll.
point 13 points. So that was a strong race.
Right.
But he couldn't even hold for second. Yes, he lost to Ocean Reserve, who won that next race, but, yeah, he just doesn't seem to win, but he definitely is good enough. But I think the public's going to go all over Mariachi, and they probably should. Anybody else we should talk about in here? What about 19 Oysters, who ran a huge fig first time? Is that horse ever going to run another good race?
I mean, clearly neither of us think so, as he did regress significantly. Then a second time he was going out, and he was a very short price that day. Now goes out as a first-time gelding. He's just a little phony, isn't he?
I don't know what he is. I mean, his first race was very good, but he has been so bad his next 2 starts. They're gelding him. Was there some sort of issue? Is it who knows? But he is a horse that does have a first race that could make him a winner here. And unlike some of his other races, I think he's going to be a pretty square price at here. I don't know what to make of him. I left him out like you. That's the first 5. Sarah and I will be back with the pick 6 as well as parts of 2 pick 5s.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Johnny. Sorry about that. One of our favorite employees, Diane, was looking for the attention of our cameraman. Welcome back to Talking Horses, sponsored by Saratoga Water. I love Saratoga Water.
Did you enjoy yours yesterday?
It's one of the first things I do when I get to Saratoga is go in the beverage center and buy a case or 2 of the little bottles.
I love that you're an authentic sponsor as well.
I've been drinking Saratoga a long, long time, and it's great. I love when I go to restaurants in the city and I see it. It always just makes me happy. I feel like I'm at home. Race number 6. What do you talk about your pick, the 3, Kosuke?
Kosuke? I don't know. That's what Johnny I said, so we'll go with it.
Well, I would never want to argue with Johnny I, but go ahead.
Exactly. I mean, this horse won on debut at 41-1 and was really completely ignored. And while the third place finisher, Arsema, is kind of not that winning type and has had her fair share of chances, she did come back to run very well the other day after not breaking at all and finishing second. This horse has a lot of speed. And I like that she was able to sit just off a horse that eventually did come back to win in La Conquistadora, all the way from the outside post of number 10. then first time facing winners. She certainly didn't disgrace herself, finishing third that day. And I like that she also showed a little bit more of a dimension of her ability to sit inside of horses before angling out to try to make a move. And those were good horses that she was facing in collaboration. And I'm just kidding, winning by disqualification that day. I just like that she's gone on from her maiden race to show something second time out versus winners, and that she's probably going to be in front today.
Yeah, I have no argument with any of that stuff. Is she really going to be 8-1?
I mean, I hope so.
What?
Won't Jamie Torres be a little bit ignored versus some of the Clement horses that are coming in towards the outside?
They're really not going to bet the horse because Jamie's riding it? I mean, maybe, but maybe. I'll tell you one thing. That's a concern for me. I think he's a talented rider, but I have not been impressed with his riding on the grass so far. I agree. She's supposed to be forward in this race, and I don't disagree with you. I think it's 8-1.
Well, he rode her in her last
extremely,
two, so they get along fine.
I don't care. She's gotten good trips in those races. I agree, but I think it's a little questionable. But I agree. 8-1. I never imagined this horse would be 8-1. I picked the horse third. I agree with you. I thought the horse was much, much more interesting than the snowy evenings. And who else has he got short? And Silver Skillet. I bet Silver Skillet last time. Now, she's supposed to be forward in here, and Joel is supposed to go. He's got to go from that post. And he could theoretically be in front if he wants to be in front. We'll watch the race out of it, but I think the horse you want out of it is Salib, who we'll talk about why you don't like her in a moment. Because Salib broke a good length and a half, 2 lengths behind the field. And this was a race that was pretty much dominated forward. It was also a day where there may not have been an extreme bias, but the rails had come down. You still were better off saving little ground. And Silver Skillet, I think that's emphasized when we watch the stretch run. Doesn't Silver Skillet get sort of energized when Joel drops her down to the inside in the late stages? But Salib gets left, makes this big, wide, premature move on the outside and kept on running. If she broke, wasn't she going to win this race, Salib?
Didn't you want absolutely nothing to do with her that day?
I did.
And now you changed your mind? I was shocked.
In fact, I liked the winner. I had the Exacta. But, yeah, I've changed my mind because she ran really well. Because I was worried that her return race, and I still think the 83 may be one that turns out to be a little on the high side going forward. But after watching her second race, I mean, you're allowed to reevaluate your positions. Yeah, I didn't like her last time, but I don't think I was right. I think I was lucky. Well, I don't know how you watch the last race and don't feel like she ran the best race in there. Yeah, it's IRAD, and she's going to take a lot of money, and she'll probably be 5-2 to 3-1 in here. But I thought based on her last race, she was way the horse to beat.
She ran well last time. That was a time where our turf course was extremely firm. The race 2 back where she had won and then regressed a little bit into that race where she didn't break. The race course for today's turf is not going to be that same level of firmness as we saw at Belmont Park where she was getting that really high number.
Well, but she was against the track in her last race. So you're going to ignore that she was against the track and she had a monster trip last time because you're going to tell me the turf isn't quite as firm as it was at Belmont? Do we have some sort of proof that she's not going to run well on a firm turf course with a little give in it? Is that based on a race over the hurdles?
No, I mean, she could run fine. I just wanted to take options that I thought would be in front of her and better prices than her.
Well, we certainly agree on the second horse, Sweetest Princess. I'll let you talk about her.
Well, she just had a trip last time out. She was braking a little bit slow, taken back a little bit, always wide, trying to make some sort of move, and then just flattened out in the later stages of that race that Kasuke exits as well. So I just think that she could benefit from getting a better trip today.
Yeah, I also think that was a race that was dominated forward, which worked in Kasuke's favor and worked against her. If she had drawn an inside post, I would have picked her on top in this race. She's been against the track in 2 straight races, and I think she's run well. She's clearly improved. But unfortunately, even with a scratch, she's mired out in post 11. Now, on the other hand, she's going to be a big price. So maybe I should have gone 12-2 as opposed to the 2 with IRAD as short price. I just really was worried about the outside post. Anybody else you want? You have Silver Skillet in there. You obviously like her more than I do. I don't know how you can like her and not like Salib. That's, I guess, would be my argument.
I think we just don't know as much about who Silver Skillet is on the turf as we do about Salib, as that was her first turf start, and she could improve now getting into the grass for the second time. I just didn't like that Salib was a horse that seemed to have better numbers and then regressed a little bit. I know that she didn't break as well, but I just don't know if she's that good.
Right. I think the 83 is a little high, but I also think she might have run a 77 to 78 if she had gotten a good trip in her last race.
Okay.
You know, and now she does draw well towards the inside. We'll see. She has to get out of the gate. And she is a horse that can be more forward. And I
She
think
can
stretching
be.
out, Irad's going to be intent on at least getting that forward position. See what happens in race number 6. Race number 7. I see you and I have a very similar opinion in race number 7. And we'll show you the race that Breeze Easy and Lady Milagro comes out of. And I don't think there's any question watching the race that Breeze Easy is the one who ran the better race. She got a little bit stay at the start. She made that run. She never got outside to make the clear run. So why do you prefer Lady Milagro today? I do too, but
I think that she'll really appreciate the 5.5 furlong configuration of this course, now getting a slight cutback in distance, and she's just extremely quick early. I know that this was a horse that was beaten by Breeze Easy last time out, who did run the better race. I do agree with that assessment, as she was pretty much left and then ducked to the inside to make a run. But the horse that beat them both in Top Gun Girl is pretty good. So I just think that with the speed advantage that she has and the better price that she's going to be and being in front of her rival on a slight cutback in distance, could work to her advantage today.
No, I agree. And she's an incredibly game horse. It's a funny conundrum for me because she's supposed to be better at 5.5 furlongs as well. But 6 furlong turf races at Belmont are often more friendly to speed horses than 5.5s at Saratoga for whatever reason. It just maybe the paces get faster in these races up here. But I agree with you. I see the same way. I think it's going to be tough to beat Breeze Easy. I'm not way against her. But I'm going to try to hope she gets wide of the field. And in this situation, just go to the lead with her and don't fool around. Go. She can run fast and she can be game as she was 2 back, albeit against lesser horses. Playlist. We'll take a look at Playlist last race at Ellis. You have her second. I want to see her do it again.
Exactly. And that's why I didn't take a horse like this on top, because she was just so overhyped and overbet as a Wesley Ward 2-year-old that really did disappoint, and then breaks her maiden at Turfway before winning this race at a huge price, albeit at this distance at Ellis last time out. I just question her overall ability in general. Now I think that she's facing some tougher company today too.
Yeah, I mean, she did smash this field. I mean, I don't think that you can – the number probably is accurate. It's so hard when they win like those blowouts. I was looking up some Wesley Ward stats. Off a win in turf, 5 to 6 furlongs. He's 29 for 140 with a $1.42 ROI. At Naira, he's 6 for 36 with a 98-cent ROI. At Saratoga, he's 2 for 16 with a 95-cent ROI. So it does feel like a lot of these horses are coming back here and they're underperforming in their subsequent starts. Obviously, that horse improved dramatically. Where the heck did it come from?
We've never seen something close to an 84 from her before. Her highest before
She's
that
20
was
to
a
1.
67.
It's not like she was bet. I mean,
Exactly. And now she's going to be a very short price, especially John Velasquez, Wesley Ward breaking from the rail in a turf sprint. There's a lot that bettors will like about this one. If she runs that race again, sure. But I, like you, question if we're going to see a repeat of that performance.
No, I agree. Are you surprised that Bomb Diggity is trying the turf for Wesley?
There's no turf pedigree at all.
I was wondering if he was sort of hoping the race came off. Maybe he was. I looked up the turf races for bowls of cherries, and I thought they were terrible. I don't.
Yeah, I had nothing to recommend about that one.
Yeah, I know that David likes this horse. I didn't get it in here. We'll see what happens in race number 7. Race number 8. Race number 8. Nage Jude was that late scratch that came in a bit late. What do I have from the replay department from race number 8? The first thing I have in here is Ichabod and Foxy Kara, who neither of us have really involved in here. I thought Ichabod wasn't impossible. I thought they would both take some money. I'm not sure what prices David make these. I send these videos in long before David's morning lines come out.
Ichiban's 4 to 1, and then Foxy Kara 5 to 1.
Foxy Kara was very disappointing in here after having a trip the time before that. I thought Ichabod actually ran very well in here. I just wonder if this might ultimately prove a tougher race.
I agree with that assessment as well. I think that there's a couple of horses coming off races that maybe they got a little bit lucky or had circumstances in their favor, and I think they're facing a tougher field today. I liked Foxy Kara last time as well,
So did I.
but this is a horse that has had her fair share of chances now, and I'm getting a little tired of her.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But you're not tired of Bon Adieu.
because she's only had the one race over a fast track so far. All the others have been on surfaces with some moisture in them, and her best finish was on a fast, dry track at 7 furlongs. The winner of that race, Bavarian Cream, did come back to win and improve significantly. So I thought that we just hadn't seen as much from her on a surface like this that she'll be getting today. She might not be very good.
But the problem is she ran the same figure on a muddy seal track last time, and so it's not clear that she's a better horse on a dry track to me.
That's fair enough. I just like that that was her best finish and the horse came back to improve.
So I have her third. I'm not going to dispute it. We'll see. I don't know. I'm waiting. I also, I know it's only day 3, and by the end of the meet, Danny Morgan may have piled up 10 wins. I watch trainers and see when they win. And Danny's numbers in New York, Goglethorpe. How bad has he been in 2 straight races in New York after running well out of town?
That was
and I want to see these horses maybe run their form, but there are things to like about her. Obviously, I agree with you. I have her third.
Right. What am I missing about Sweet Liberty?
That's a good question. What are you missing about it? We'll take a look at her race. Let's see. She runs speed figures that are easily fast enough to win this race. She's now had a 6-month layoff where there's reason to believe as a 3-year-old she could have improved 6 to 10 buyer points, which would make her a layover in this field. I know she's had a lot of chances, and she's also got low-profile connections, so she's not going to take the money I think she should. And I don't know what you're missing. What are you missing? She's run 2 straight races that are fast enough to win here.
Hasn't she had so many opportunities?
She has, but she's also improved in her last couple of starts. And I don't see anybody in here that's good. And the other thing is, yes, she has definitely had a lot of chances. They're usually a horse I got to stay away from. But this is not a horse that's going to be a super short price in this race with those connections. So I avoid short prices on horses that have had chances, not necessarily horses that seem like they're the right horses. I mean, I just think she's as good, if not better, than anybody. And with Torres riding, and I have zero problem on the dirt, I think he's a good rider. I just think he needs time to run more turf races and learn his craft.
Sure.
I think he's a very good rider. And Pat Quick, who wins, I don't know. I just this horse would get lost in here. I mean, I don't know. Who am I supposed to really like in here?
I think a lot of people like Mim off of that race on a wet track. I don't really see it.
No, that race was sort of falling apart in the late stages. So they got a good ride. So she ran fine, but it's not impossible. I just, unless she suddenly improves on dry tracks, and I don't believe in stuff like that. I think there's a couple horses that we should talk about that are making their second start, starting with Shotgun Patsy. I don't know that Joey Martinez didn't do anything wrong. I mean, he glued the horse to the rail. The rail was fine that day, though. So, but, you get Junior coming back. Bill Mott comes right back with this horse. I kind of wonder if maybe the horse will run better today.
He's had a good start to the meet as well, so
he told me yesterday he's only a dirt trainer now. He said he can't win on the turf anymore, which is amusing because he was joking, but it's just sort of fun.
Well,
it's
that's some important news.
Well, it's the evolution. What's the funny?
Sure.
I think he was making an illusion because with another trainer who often gets pegged as a turf trainer that's been known to win a big race or two on the dirt. And I think that was sort of the joke because now he's got a lot of good dirt horses. And There was a time when Bill was very much recognized because the horse he had for Alan Paulson is a turf trainer. When, of course, a good trainer, as Bill Mott is more than a good trainer.
Dirt sprinters only, right?
You get the right horses and you're a good trainer, you can do anything with them. As far as Montauk Mystique, I'll let you talk about her.
I mean, this horse might have zero ability as well. It's one of those ones where we saw something from them first time out that was not that impressive, but this is a horse that hasn't had the opportunities to disappoint over and over again as some of the others. The blinkers do go on. This horse just did really no running first time out on that wet track, same race that Mim exits. So I just am not wowed by what I have seen. I want to take some prices on what I haven't seen so far.
I think that's extremely fair. And the other thing about Montauk Mystique is, and I'm just not that interested, but I think your reasoning is more than sound. I mean, if I could pick the 2, I can't knock the 4. He now has a rider, or she has a rider, that
gets a little more
tends
position.
to have his horses in better orderly position than the prior rider on that horse, who tends to be way too far back too often. By the way, Maggie told me, it's So Lib.
So Lib.
So Lib.
Okay.
I'll probably remember that for about 12 more seconds, but thank you.
Good to know.
Race number 9, the Kelso. So we'll talk about the pace, and we'll talk about it more as things go on. But the pace favors Casa Creed. But paces can be different on paper than they are on the racetrack. And the thing about Annapolis that I think gives him the advantage, as we take a look at his last race, where he beat English B, who didn't come back around that well, is he's not going to be compromised if the pace doesn't come up as strong as it's supposed to, because he can be forward, he's got an inside post, and I think the knock on him, and I was having this conversation with someone this morning, and we both had sort of similar opinions, which is he keeps getting perfect trips, and you look at him, I mean, that trip in the turf mile was unbelievable. This was a great trip, but he's got that kind of running style, and he draws inside. And the advantage that he has over Casa Creed is he can't – everyone can be a victim. He's not, from a dynamic standpoint, he's not likely to be a victim regardless of how the race plays out, whereas Casa Creed could be. And how confident are we that Casa Creed's really as good, despite this win in the 4-star Dave, going the mile distance? And I think you should answer that. And I picked him second, and I could have picked him on top.
No, I think that that's a fair argument to make, that he just probably is not running his preferred distance, but we know that he at least handles the mile
4-star Dave
at Saratoga, as evidenced in that 4-star Dave win. I also like that he did come back and run a good third in the Jaipur to Caravel, so we know that he's at least come back off of that Saudi Arabia race where he ended up finishing second, much like last year. You bring up a great point about the development of the pace, because he does need some things to go his way ahead of him, but this was a great run from him where he's able to run down Regal Glory in the later stages of this race. I know that he was not able to beat Annapolis that time that they met at Keeneland, but as you already mentioned, the trip that Annapolis got that day,
It's
if you
the
look
as
up
good a
perfect
perfect trip as you
in
could
the
possibly get in a
dictionary,
race.
saving ground on the rail the whole way, sitting right off the pace that was moderate, and then angling out for room in the stretch, even though he kind of had to force his way out in there. If we see something like that again today, he's going to win, but there's a chance there's more speed.
Listen, to
We
me,
see
it's
this
a
very
razor-thin
similarly.
margin, if there is one. And Casa Creed also is a better horse based on what he's done on the racetrack throughout his career. And the other thing about Annapolis, and it's great to see him back, so obviously it was something, it was like, I think he got a fever or something, but he missed the poker. And I hate horses that miss big races. But he's back so soon that there's no reason,
Must have
I
been
think, to be
minor.
concerned.
Right.
There's no way Todd's going to run him unless he's doing fine. It's an interesting distinction. Now, one thing I would say about the 4-star Dave, and listen, I'm going to be very clear. I want Casa Creed to win. Leon Slider, who's his owner, is a very close friend of mine. He's a wonderful guy, as pretty much everybody knows. And if you don't know, just go see him. He'll tell you what a wonderful guy he is. He's just spreading love all over the place.
He brought in some
kissing
food for us
babies.
one time.
He's the greatest. But
yes.
he had an unbelievably great trip in the 4-star Dave, because that's when the rails came down. It's not just his trip. It's his trip versus the trip of Regal Glory, because he saved ground the whole way before angling out in the stretch, whereas Regal Glory never saw the rail. And at that point, if you didn't see the rail, you basically had zero chance in those turf races going a mile, especially on the inner. So he had a lot go his own way that day, but he did win. And I think your point about the race at Keeneland is fair. Even though he finished behind, he didn't have a bad trip, but he probably didn't have as good a trip as Annapolis.
Right.
I think it's a terrific matchup between these two, and I'm going to be surprised if they lose, though I think English B has a chance to run a little bit better here. Why are you splitting them with an Anaconda?
I just feel as though he's better than some of his last races indicate, and while he'll have to take a major step forward to compete with one of these top two, or they'll have to not run their race, his fourth last time out in the poker that was won by Emmanuel was a race where he did break kind of slow, and then he got a little rank and upset behind horses, ultimately not able to get the job done that day, but he also would have to run back to that race that he ran back last time he was on the turf, where he almost got by Big Everest. And I just think there's going to be a price difference between those two, where I'd prefer him in the kind of form that he's in right now, with the potential to take another step forward.
Okay. I hear you. He's run two reasonably fast races. I'm not going to argue with you. He ran okay in there. I didn't really like him, but I've got him fourth, and certainly hope he wins for Kirk and Three Diamonds. Big Everest. I've taken deserved heat for picking against him and having him win continuously. And Anaconda obviously should have beaten him 3 races back. Here is his race at Monmouth. But I'm going to continue to say it. This horse is the most fortunate horse I think I've seen in a long, long time, because he not only is able to cut out ridiculously slow paces race after race after race, but he also was on a hedge. The inside was arguably an advantage on this course. He spent most of the race on the rail. And with the presence of the 3 Midday Image and I guess the 6 Filo di Ariana. Either one of them, what are they doing in here if they're not being forward? How is he going to get his next case of walking on the front end? And he's meeting horses that are infinitely better, except you're going to say Anaconda, which is fair, but Anaconda was better than that day. If he wins today,
Somebody did not send their horse to the lead, somebody didn't break, or everyone is making terrible decisions out there.
right, and if he rates behind the 3 and wins this race, I should have
he'll
brought my
show
Belmont Duns
something
cap, but
that
I
we haven't
will.
seen yet.
I will admit that I have been very foolish about him, and he's much better than I think. And listen, another horse, friendly with the connections, want to see him do well, but this horse, in my opinion, is as dressed up as a horse can possibly be. Race number 10, the Sanford. I don't like to go too gaga over 2-year-olds early, and I was, earlier in his career, was a big fan. Last year, I had enough of Jackie's Warrior being overhyped, running slow figures, much like Elite Power, who's going to be losing the Vanderbilt in his next start. I don't care who shows up. But this horse, I think he's faster, Gold Sweep, we'll look at him, than Jackie's Warrior was when he came in. And he won the Saratoga Special, I believe. He came in mid-meet. And I have no idea why anybody would pick against this horse. And you're going to explain to me why. I think he's the biggest cinch on the card, and he might be one of the biggest cinches we'll see all meet. I know it's just one race, but frankly, he can't lose this race off his debut.
Who did
And
he
off
beat?
this race, he'll win by 100.
Who did he beat last time?
The clock. And you know what? That's what horses do. They try to beat the clock because time doesn't only matter in jail. Time specifically matters out there. And he ran a 91 Beyer. He ran 3.5 seconds faster than that mediocre horse in the Astoria. This was a super fast race. Who did he beat? I don't know. Who's he running against here? He's not
Also
running against
fair.
anybody that is even on the same galaxy as him. And yeah, he's going to be 1-5 or 2-5 in here, and he should be.
You're right. Even his debut race was faster than what we've seen from other.
And he can rate in a race full of pace.
He can. There are all so many great things pointing in his direction. He's going to be 3-5. He is a very
No, he's going to be
deserving-
lower.
He's a very deserving short price favorite. I get it. If he just runs even half as good a race as he did last time, he's probably going to win. When you're looking at these 2-year-olds that can take a step like that forward from their first to their second start, much like he did first to second time out when winning, a great improvement in terms of his numbers, we haven't seen as much from everybody else yet on who they are, and they could easily take another step forward. And here, I know that it'll
A
have
lot
to
of times
be
2-year-olds don't take that step. That's the thing. A lot of 2-year-olds take a step back after winning their debuts. That's the thing I strongly disagree with, and I think that's one of the things that happened in the Schuylerville. And that's why it turned out to be a fortuitous move by Gary Contessa, because all those horses took a step back. She didn't run that well, but she found a bunch of not such good
she
horses.
didn't break. She ran okay.
She ran fine. She ran fine. Whether she wins again in the future, I'm very suspect. But, and, you know, there was a lot of things that made it smart for him. He got a lot of attention. He's just getting back in the game really in a bigger way. And it brought him, and it was a very smart move by him. But I think one of the keys is horses taking a step back. So I don't have such certainty that 2-year-olds in particular making their second starts off wins are necessarily that likely to take a step forward. If you look at a lot of stats, a lot of them don't.
Okay.
You know, you think about Todd Pletcher's horse in there. You think about his stats. Call the Cavalry is probably the second choice with Irad Ortiz riding. What do you like about this horse's debut?
That he was already able to break from the rail and win sitting off of horses, passing horses to the inside. He doesn't need to be in front to win, much like the running style of what's going to be your favorite. It just doesn't behoove me to put a 3-5 on top unless I absolutely think they're a complete cinch. And with 2-year-olds with so much going on and so little we know about them, I just liked his professionalism on debut. And Ken McPeek does not reach out for Irad Ortiz Jr. pretty much at all. They've only teamed up 8 times over the past 5 years. So I think it's interesting that Irad took them out on debut and stays aboard in here. He would have to do something significant to beat this favorite, or that favorite would have to regress. But I just thought he was a little bit interesting.
I'm going to put it a different way.
Tell me.
I think Ken McPeek reached out for Irad Ortiz all the time. I just think most of the time Irad, who has much better options in races, says, I'll pass. This horse won when the rail opened up like the Red Sea. Listen, good luck. I think this horse should be 30-1 in this race and will be shocked. I'll probably look stupid after the race. To me, I thought the interesting horse, if you want a second horse, is Triple Treya. Because I like this race because nobody else made a move whatsoever in this race at Woodbine. And this horse made a significant run to get it done. And Barbara Minchell, a number of years ago, I want to say, shipped down a horse off a synthetic win at at Woodbine and was a very impressive winner of the Schuylerville. That horse went the wrong way and didn't come back. I think came back in the Beaumont the next year in a race that featured one of the most disgraceful jobs ever by the Jockey Club in allowing a name. I thought this was a perfect like suck-up type horse because I think if you're trying to get a horse, and for me it's all about running second here, this is the kind of horse who could just suck up and finish second. And she seems to be shipping horses. I kind of respect that.
That's fair. No problem in picking up Louise Size as well. Market Street for the coach on the outside. Isn't this horse going to be alone in front now unless someone shows a little bit more speed with the scratch of the number 5, Factor You and Me?
No. You don't think
so?
that either Jive or Dickens, you don't think Dickens is going? I think Dickens will go like the Dickens.
Yeah.
I hadn't prepped that, but it just came to me, and I wanted to use that.
That's nice.
No, I don't think that horse will be loose, and I don't
Okay.
like that horse at all.
Okay. You picked him
But
fourth.
you're like on the Wayne Lucas bandwagon. You better hope. You better either
you
jump
mean?
off the Wayne Lucas bandwagon or hope that Wayne has a big meet. I'm just.
I don't pick him that often. I just like a few of his horses.
This
You're just reminiscing about yesterday.
I'm always reminiscing. No, I don't think that horse is a factor in here, but I could be
Didn't
wrong.
you pick him fourth?
Because I didn't have anybody else, and I like Wayne.
Okay.
Unlike you, I actually know and like Wayne. So
I'm sorry, I don't know Wayne like
you,
you
well,
know
you could
Wayne.
meet him. Go. You should
I
introduce
have
yourself.
met him
He's
once.
Yeah,
I'm sure he doesn't remember though. It was right after
He might.
Secret Oath won
You'd be
the Kentucky
surprised.
Oaks.
You would be surprised. Race number 11. I'm very annoyed in race number 11.
Tell me
that
why.
Alexis Zorba isn't in the body of the field because I would be betting out on Alexis Zorba. And no, I don't have a story on it for you out there that think I do. You know, one of them will probably win. Beer Run or Flat Top Box, and we'll look at the replay last time where they finished second and third. They may row 1-1-2. I don't know. I just don't want them. But I will say one thing. They lost to a really good horse last time, and I bet Beer Run. He ran terrific in there. The winner looks like a stakes horse for Chad Brown and Peter Brandt. And maybe these horses are just coming out of too tough a race, and they're just probably the two best horses. in
I mean, the
race.
winner just made up so much ground, such a great turn of foot towards the outside, and those were the two that were battling it out early on the front end. I just went to the one that would be a slightly better price of the two. He did get tired in the later stages. That was also his turf debut. Beer Run's just going to take so much money for Wesley Ward.
Yeah, I'm not. I listen. I got no problem with them. And interesting. I think about this with stats sometimes. I was looking up a stat yesterday. Like it was 50% drop downs in a situation. The trainer second off the claimers, and the trainer's 5 for 5 in that move, and relatively mediocre stats. Otherwise, if you take the 50% out, but the horse is dropping from 30 to 16, so it's actually not.
Significant.
It's actually not 50%.
Oh, okay.
So you can't use the stat in that situation. But I also wonder about the Wesley Ward stat that I talked about earlier off of wins in turf sprints. Well, this horse ostensibly ran a winning race, right? So it obviously doesn't count in the category. But the point about that is I'm saying that a lot of time Wesley's horses come off wins and they run, they
don't
wins.
run as well.
They come off good performances and they don't run as well. So I think you have to think about that a little bit here. But they're the horse to beat. I'm going to take a completely ridiculous horse here on top. But obviously you have the horse fourth
There's
from my man
pedigree.
Eddie Barker, who does not have good stats in Saratoga over the years. But he's also run a lot of huge priced horses. This horse's debut at Monmouth, turf debut at Monmouth, it wasn't good. But I thought the horse had a bit of a trip, being out in the middle of the racetrack, 4 wide the whole way, and frankly didn't run as badly as the figure suggests. Then he tried to go a mile against an absolute killer field and a stakes horse that won for West Point and Cherie DeVoe. So cutting back, I thought the horse was goofy enough to try to get it in the number, and I thought, I just don't want to pick the 2 or 4, and if the 13 got in, I would have picked her. Let me take somebody as an alternative, because I don't know about you, I couldn't find any alternatives I wanted.
No, there's no standout in a field like this. And with Paxational, this is a horse that I really looked at last time going into that race, won by Northern Invader. Ultimately ended up going in a different direction, but the Dam Browse, a 4-time winner. There's some pedigree for this horse to actually end up being kind of okay. So in a spot
Oh, this
like
is
this,
a lot of pedigree. Daydreaming's a second dam, right? Isn't
Right.
Browse is a sugar horse?
Yep.
Bay Lounge, you have third. I'll let you talk about him. I have some reservations, but I'll let you talk about
I
him.
do too,
It'll be
and
a
I
price,
mean,
so it doesn't matter.
the post doesn't do this horse
Not a
any
price.
favors, drawing all the way towards the outside in this 5.5 furlong sprint.
Outside posts aren't that bad in these sprints.
I mean, this horse hasn't shown a ton of speed either.
Well, why do you like him?
Well, just the major.
Well, enough to put him third.
I think that getting the horse into a race as a 3-year-old for the first time off of that 2-year-old form, was running it against okay horses, cutting back in distance to a sprint as well. Second in the turf debut to I'm Very Busy, who was okay and highly thought of at one point for Chad Brown before
and the
kind of
first
falling.
cloud computing winner as well.
Oh, okay, that's a fun fact.
Absolutely. It's a monument. I think the first one.
There's just
First one
been
here, for
good
sure.
turf company that this horse has kept in
And
his couple of
two-year-olds
starts.
routinely improve 15 or more points off their 2-year-old form. So you see those 65s, it could be an 80 day. I would like this horse going long. I hate
don't
these
like
kind of
the cutback?
cutbacks. I hate them. And the fact that Bill Mott told me he's not a turf trainer anymore. So now I have that information
So
that
how could you
apparently he sucks in the
possibly like
turf.
this one?
Bill's numbers on cutbacks in the turf are bad. And I hope my friend Gabby Gadet is listening to this because she likes to pretend that he has good cut. You know what his numbers are turning back from routes to sprints in maiden races on
Tell
turf?
me.
1 for 26 with a
not
37 because
good.
he can't. He's the bad turf trainer. That's the reason.
Right.
He's 6 for 68 overall. So it doesn't work that often, and that's. I think there's a lot of reasons to like this horse in here. I just was worried about the cutback, to be honest with you. And I wonder a little bit if maybe even Bill was thinking, I want to get a race into the horse. This race
Before
came up,
stretching out.
and
Yeah,
then I'll
possibly.
go long the next time out. We'll see. I mean, this horse, I won't be shocked if this horse if I'm wrong about this horse because if you're trying to beat the 2 and 4, this is a
Who
horse you
else?
have to look at. It's one of
Exactly.
the possible horses. Anyway, it was fun. We'll do it again next Friday and Saturday. For those wondering, Maggie will be on tomorrow. Maggie's killing it on Talking Horses, by the way. Everybody's doing a fabulous job.
Well, I got to be
dead
on
serious,
with her for the
but
first
she's
time.
killing
We had a
it.
great time, and she laughed at me about her husband's horse that I liked, and he ran third.
Well, that's because she laughs at her husband. I picked one of my rare. Tom Morley always gives me a hard time saying, you never pick my horses. I picked him yesterday, he won. I told him I don't
You
pick
did.
your horses because you
like
never
that
win.
horse quite a bit.
No. Yeah, I don't know. That was a funny. How bad was the horse that won the Jersey Girl, by the way?
She did no
show up
running at all. At
Terrible.
all.
I agree. The Bauer
Yeah.
horse you liked, and I didn't like at all, actually ran very well. And David made an interesting point. That was probably the best horse in the race. I didn't think the horse was a dirt horse, but that horse is probably from a talent standpoint, as then he had felt like I did, and we were both a little surprised how well she ran. Anyhow, it was fun.
Well,
we'll do it again. You need to head over to Naira Bets. Just getting started here. Use promo code SPA200, and we will match you to $200 of your initial deposit. SPA200. We have the early bird special. I've already opted in. You need to do it too. Bet 100 or more in the first 5 races. We'll give you $10 back. Win, lose, or draw. That's in Italia, by the way. That's Joelle on in Italia. The cross country pick 5. If you're into harness racing, this is the bet for you, and those races will be on, as we'll tell you later, on Saratoga Live. I don't know if it's really Saratoga Live if we're at the Meadowlands. The middle pick 4s race 5 today, 2, 5, and 8. The pick 4s, and 1 to 3:30 at FS1. 3:30 to 7 on FS2, and FS1 10 to 12. Meadowlands Pace. Are you on that show?
No, I'm not. And that's okay.
All right, there you have it. We're done. But Frank Miramati is just getting revved up. I liked he had a very zen-like first set of scratches. And you know, much as I love Frank, I don't think of him in a zen-like terms. He's coming back with a reprise, the scratch and changes. Have a great day. First Saturday here at Saratoga.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.